And welcome back to another edition of the MLB Inside the Diamond podcast. I'm your host, Tom Johnston. I'm joined by LaMarr Fields. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good yourself?
It's just another lovely week in paradise and weekend in sports. To kick things off, we got a lot of MLB news. We can begin with the Carlos Correa saga that just seemingly never ends. Now it's reported that the Minnesota Twins are nearing a deal that's 6/7 year deal worth 250 million with a vesting option for 270 million. And of course, this all is pending a physical. LaMarr, here's my question to you. Is this saga ever going to actually end? Like, is the team actually going to actually sign this guy and say, listen, like, pending the physical? Because this is the mind-boggling thing is it's the pending physical part because now it's like no matter what team tries to pursue him, they all know that this injury is a part of him.
So the deal is done. He passed the physical a couple of days ago, so it's a done deal.
Well,
Uh, yeah, we're good for the Twins. Yeah, give him a chance to play for that division. Player like Correa, 6 years, possibly could be 10 or 270. So it all worked out for them.
now, here's my other question to you. Knowing that the Twins were the last team Correa actually played for, and this whole saga probably could have been avoided. Why didn't the Twins just because he had a deal. It was essentially a 3 year deal with a vesting option for 2 more years upon the deal that he originally backed out of. Why not just be the Twins and just say, you know what, we were the ones that took the risk on you after, you parted ways with the Astros or this or the other. Like, why didn't they just, do it right then and there? Because now it's just like this whole saga, it's like, you went from the Twins and the Giants offered you, and then that deal didn't go through, then the Mets did, and that didn't go through, and now you're back to the team where, you know, essentially, besides the Astros, like guys parted ways because you wanted something long term. It's just in logical aspects, it would make sense. But why do you think this whole thing transpired the way it did?
Twins made an offer. I think they wanted 10 for, gave him 10 for something 10 for, can't remember how much last year offering them, but yeah, it's about a team offering you 13 year 350. You gotta try to take that. Built the physical. Mets offer kind of was the same but a little bit less. Built the physical, and now he's back to the Twins. It's a business.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
Twins end up with him, and hey, in the end, the Twins win.
yeah, I feel the same way. At the end of the day, it is what it is. It's just things do happen in a lot of stretch, but overall, it's a tough saga. I don't get it. I would assume that overall, you know, players just wouldn't do all the. I get it. I just don't. I get it, but I don't get it. It just seems like a whole saga to get a lot of talking points out. But then now on to number two, and we touched a little bit on this the last time, but the Trevor Bauer saga. He's officially a free agent, and there are reports that some teams are interested, some teams are not. But overall, it's just a simple fact of how it's actually going to go down. Do you think that this is actually might happen down the road? Is no team will take an interest in him right now, knowing like the situation, but a team like down the line, maybe a year or two after the fact, might take an interest, or do you think Trevor Bauer is absolutely done with Major League Baseball?
It's hard to say. Uh, this is a tough situation. I mean, see what happened to Ray Rice. He never played again in football, so it wouldn't surprise me if he never played again. But all it takes is one team, though. So it's hard to say. I mean, personally, I wouldn't, but
I mean, it is a touchy subject. I mean, you got a lot of teams that look at it from this aspect, and that's that. You know, in some ways, it's not even about the talent that the athlete brings to the squad, even though that can be a determining factor. But it's also like, there's a lot of PR backlash to it too. Like, oh, even if you're in dire need of starting pitching, it's just like, you know, and the thing is there's also the other aspect is with all the time you spent away from baseball, you're not facing major league caliber talent. You're not, even if you might be working out and staying in shape, you're not facing that elite talent that you once were. And it's just like we've seen how for some people, for some athletes, it's just that takes a toll on you and it tanks. I think it's kind of like similar to Le'Veon Bell in the NFL. He wanted to hold out for so long. And I get, why it all happened, but you see how guys start to lose their touch because, oh yeah, training and everything, it's one thing, but actually facing the talent and, being around that kind of conditioning is a whole nother aspect. And, allow me to say this, there are reports that the Houston Astros might take an opportunity down the line just because whenever you lose Justin Verlander, you might look for another pitcher. But I don't think it's the right move in a lot of ways, just because it's really a tough situation. Now, it's worth noting that Bauer was never really criminally charged, but that's even besides the point. It's just the simple fact that, there are morals, there are values, there are ethics all involved in this. And, to a lot of teams, it's just like they don't really want to take on that PR backlash if they do sign him. And it's just like sometimes you really got to ask yourself, even for as talented as a guy might be, is it really worth potentially taking on all of this backlash to actually give a guy a starting role? And it's really tough to say, but I honestly don't think he comes back. I honestly just think teams might just shy away from it, and it's enough for them to say, you know what, you haven't pitched in the major leagues for going on a year plus, and this, that, the other. Like, it's probably not even worth it at this point. I mean, I'm not even sure if he's even going to be walking away with any money. I think the Dodgers may try to avoid paying him, but it's hard to say. He might walk away with some money after all. I mean, in some ways, it really just depends on the contracts that are structured. There are multiple lawyers that are going to be involved in this, so it's hard to say. But yeah, it's tough. Now, there's another thing that happened in baseball this week, and it of course comes to the Pirates. I'm pretty sure you've heard of it too. Is that the Pirates are bringing back Andrew McCutchen on a 1-year, $5 million deal, I believe. It was reported that the Twins and the Mets offered him similar deals. The Mets actually offered him significantly more money, and a lot of reports indicate, especially in the Pittsburgh market, is that he chose to come back to Pittsburgh because there was more playing time involved, and his relationship with Bob Nutting and this, that, the other. He's actually 35, going to be 36, I believe, too, because I also did look that up. And a lot of people are actually saying that the reason why this actually makes a lot of sense is a lot of people are contemplating that after this year, he's going to retire, and he wants to more than likely retire a Pittsburgh Pirate. He's bounced around the league a couple different times. I could say that he's probably gotten to experience the major leagues quite a bit. He's gone to the Giants. He's played for the Giants, I believe, for a little while. He's played in a Yankees uniform. He's also played back in the NL Central with the Brewers. So, he's bounced around a bit, but, I could say this coming from firsthand, following the Pirates, still like them because they're the hometown team and this, that, the other. I see where this move comes from, but I honestly just like, okay, I see where the Pirates are coming from. They're bringing some veterans in, but like at the end of the day, how much value do you expect it to be added? Because like, do you get the Rich Hill that is the dominant Rich Hill, or do you just get the Rich Hill that's just like on his way out of the major leagues? Do you get the Kutch that is really that it can be a clutch player and clutch hitter and clutch outfielder, potentially clutch DH, or do you get a guy that's gonna like not do so well? It's just those are the factors that come in because it's great that you want to offer 1-year deals, but where's the stability? I also know that they've also agreed to a couple guys on 1 year contracts to avoid arbitration. And it's just like, what do these 1 year contracts do? To me, they really do nothing. It's just like, great, you got a guy for 1 year to avoid arbitration because more than likely an arbitrator is going to meet the team and the player halfway. And more than likely, both sides aren't going to agree to it. So, what are your thoughts on that? And, do you think it actually adds any value per se?
McCutcheon's a good clubhouse guy for our team that got probably a lot of young players on it. And he's probably towards the end of his career, maybe this could be his last year. He wanted to spend his last year where he started. And he still got a little pop in his bat, hit 17 home runs last year, 27 the year before. He ain't gonna hit for much average, but he probably gonna play solid defense and put out a little bit of pop and that leadership, teaching them young players how to be pros. That goes a long way, man. If you got a team full of young players and no veterans, it's not going anywhere. You got some veterans who can teach these guys how to play. And also, when you're a team like the Pirates, who haven't been playing very well for years, it's going to be hard to get people to sign there for more than 1 year. Because what they're going to do is, they got Rich Hill, you said, right?
Yeah.
Rich Hill pitched good for the first half of the season. They ain't going to do nothing but try to trade him, get something for him at the trade deadline, get some more young prospects.
I just realized that,
Pirates and the A's are the same boat. They do the same thing. Get these prospects, and once they develop, they ship them off. You got to start developing these prospects and keep them on the team. You can't be developing prospects to trade them away to get more prospects and do the same thing. It's never ending cycle.
Yeah, that's where I come from when I tell people about the Pirates. That's why I say I don't get these moves because it's just like, okay, like I try to put myself into like the Pirates front office shoes and just say, it's got to come to a stop at some point because it's just like, okay, let me sign this guy. If he performs well in the first half, I have value to trade him. Well, then here's my true question is well, how much value do you expect you're going to get in return and prospect wise for a guy that's in his mid-30s that's probably going to be done at the end? Like teams are going to want to give up that much, and it's just like have the prospects that the Pirates get back. It's just like they end up staying in the minors, and it's just like it's that never-ending cycle. It's just like these fans, like the purpose to getting a team to the next level is finding a core group of prospects that you're going to build around and eventually start to contend. And it's just like, with the Pirates fan base, it's just like, they see the never ending cycle. It's just like, where are these prospects at? Like, where are they coming at? Like, and it's just, it could be frustrating. And that goes for any team, it's just, and I'm not denying Kutch's leadership. I mean, he is a valuable leader in the clubhouse, and it does go a long way for a group of young guys. But at some point, it's just like, you really got to question where does this evidently go? Like, does this add to the fundamental building block of building to that next level, or what does it do? Because, like, at the end of the day, fans, I could speak for a lot of Pirates fans that I talk to that, a lot of them, they're tired of it. They're tired of just all these 1 year deals and bringing in these veteran guys. It's just like either more than likely you're going to get shipped at the deadline because you performed well in the first half or this, that, the other, and it just seems like, based off the actions, it just seems like it's a never-ending cycle to where it's like you don't want to contend. Like your job is you're okay with being average or mediocre, and like that's not what a lot of fans like. Like it's like I tell people, even like that, and I guess it really just depends on the market you're in. But like whenever you look at the Yankees and now the Mets and even the Dodgers, like they show that hey, even though we're in a bigger market and we can spend, like we constantly develop too, to where it's just like we're able to pull from our farm system, but we're also able to go out there, make a splash in free agency. But it's like they're showing the willingness to do that, and whether or not like it's just it's a whole sticky situation. I just think that in a lot of ways, maybe Pirates ownership, they show that they don't want to contend, or they just show that they're content with being where they're at, because it's just like, okay, back in the 2012 to 2015 time frame, you guys they had a payroll in the like $97 million range and this, that, the other, and they have like 97 wins or whatever. Like they were actually filling up PNC Park. Fans were happy, but all of a sudden it's just like, why can't they get that back? Like, you wanted to invest, you invested this, that, the other, but like, where is that? Like, to me, if ownership could show that they could get that, why can't you bring that back again? It's just like you went that way, and it's just like you proved that the Pirates can actually do that. Why is that not happening again?
Yeah, crazy.
I mean, it's tough. It is. I mean, it's frustrating for a lot of Pirates fans. Now, on to some college football. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. LaMarr, I think that in some ways the TCU in Georgia game did not get a lot of good PR per se. The way Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit were kind of calling it at halftime, where yeah, folks, it's best to just switch the channel because TCU isn't coming back. And then allow me to say this, Gabe. TCU gets dismantled like 65-7. And it's not a good look. Please tell me this. And I need a logical answer because I got a lot to say about this. How does Georgia dismantle TCU? But here's Jim Harbaugh and the Big Ten champ Michigan Wolverines that really have a solid team, minus Blake Corum because he's out and everything. How could Michigan not do what Georgia did? Like, and Michigan's like up there in talent wise with everything. Like, I'm really curious as to how Michigan just flat out just couldn't get the job done. But here it is, like Georgia's just sitting here saying, "Oh yeah, we know how to beat TCU. Why can't Michigan do that?" Like that it's just I don't get it.
Yeah, any given Saturday, any given Monday, any given Sunday. Some days just ain't going. Some days it's clicking. Georgia got 4 and 5 star recruits everywhere off the bench. You can see they're trying to run the clock out. They still was getting 10 yards of carry with backups in there. I mean, just Georgia was on a mission, man. And I don't know if Michigan took TCU lightly or whatever was going on, but they just didn't play well that day. And sometimes it's all boiled down to that. It's tough to say, man. These teams in these one-game situations, if you don't come to play, Georgia came out to play. They didn't take no TCU. Like you could tell from the start, they wasn't playing around. They'd come there. They're there to handle business. They're there to handle business, and they didn't want to have a game like they had against Ohio State, where they was had to come from behind and come back and win. Ohio State basically blew that game. But when you got top-notch talent and they all there and they all on the same page and focused and ready to go and ready to play hard, you can see that TCU was overmatched. Like I said, if they got off to a bad start, the floodgate was going to open. And that's what happened. 65-7. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was 65-7. I mean,
but you got to come to play every game, man. No matter who you play against, you got to show up. And if you don't show up, you get punched in the mouth. And that's what happened to Michigan. They before they start showing up, it was already too late. TCU already had that confidence, and confidence takes you a long way. Once you get some confidence and some bad mistakes that Michigan made earlier in the game when they got their first drive and they didn't get no points. Yeah.
I think it goes to show that, Michigan kind of got caught being one-dimensional because a lot of the style that Jim Harbaugh likes to do, it's rather, he just likes to be so one-dimensional. It's just like, you got JJ McCarthy. And,
I don't think it had nothing to do. That thing, offense made some mistakes, but they scored a lot of points. The defense didn't stop them. They couldn't keep up with TCU's speed. You score 48 points or whatever they scored, you're supposed to win the game. I mean, the Marshals have some mistakes, some missteps, but you score 48 points, you got to win the game. It ain't got nothing to do with one-dimensional win. You got to get some stops. They gave 51 points. You give 51 points, you're gonna lose. Sorry.
No, I mean that's true. I mean, it's just it looks bad for a second straight year for Michigan because all of a sudden, people think Michigan's back on the rise, and then all of a sudden, it's just like, okay, I can understand the Michigan debacle with Georgia because Georgia is flat out talented. Kirby Smart, it just seems like no matter what assistant is under Nick Saban, and then he goes to like any SEC school wherever they go in college football, they're able to get a functioning team that's able to contend in so many ways. And it's kind of scary, it's kind of crazy. But then you look at Michigan this year, and it's just like, please tell me how you fumbled against TCU. It's just, I mean, listen, like you said, whenever you score 41 points in a college football game or whatever the figure is, it's just, it is tough, but you're not going to really come back from that. But at the end of the day, it's just like, I think whenever you look at the talent gap, I mean, let's be realistic. Besides like Max Dugan, you might have a few talented other players, but I think Georgia kind of proved the theory right about the Big 12. And that's that, there is a drastic talent gap there. And I think it goes to show that, maybe the Big 12, I mean, it's just games like that just really just say, wow, because it's like now that leads to the next thing, and that's that does Jim Harbaugh really test the waters of the NFL? Because it's like you even showed me that report about how Ward Emanuel was just the money and stuff like that isn't adding up in the language contracts. And here's what I really got to say about it: Jim Harbaugh has brought Michigan football back, but there's the Achilles heel of, okay, you've made it to 2 back-to-back Big Ten championships. You've beat your arch rival finally in 2 back-to-back seasons, which, Michigan fans are happy about that. Ohio State fans are really not. But then on top of that, it's like, Jim Harbaugh's taken a pay cut. He's actually donated money back to Michigan athletics to help the other staff members that have actually taken pay cuts voluntarily, stuff like that. I think it's time to pay the man. Like the guy's proven that even in a couple setbacks, he's able to bring Michigan football back to what it once was. And now it's like, okay, this, that, the other, like, and the thing is people got to understand Michigan football, they have an obstacle course to even recruit guys because you have to fit a certain academic standard to even get in at the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor. And yet, if Jim Harbaugh's proven that, we could get those recruits in and we could get back to what it is, I believe as an athletic director, like you have the guy that like can get you back there, and he's already got the football team back there. Like, pay the man. Like, the guy's already voluntarily taken a pay cut, this, that, the other. Like, he's done what's been asked of him. I think it's time for Michigan to give in to the guy. I mean, the guy, they got the funds to do it. It's not like, Michigan football is some FCS school that, just is on the brick and mortar and has to rely on facing some of these top tier FBS schools to collect that massive paycheck. Like, Michigan football sells out the big house for 7 games in the fall. They get a lot of support. It's not like they don't. And I mean, okay, minus some of these minor recruiting violations that, in my mind, are just, they're stupid. I mean, okay, Jim Harbaugh buys a recruit a burger. Like, people, let's get real. Like, I understand that there's rules and regulations, but like, buying somebody a burger, I don't think that's really a minor infraction compared to, say, giving a guy like a car or giving a guy like $30,000 for his family. I could see if the violations got that serious, but like buying a burger, like really, like I think some of these rules the NCAA has in place, like we need to really revisit them because it's just that's ludicrous. Like, everybody, now don't get me wrong, there are programs that do have some more serious recruiting violations than other, but like, doing some of these things that coaches got to get creative in recruiting and stuff these days because it's just like, with NIL now involved and everything, like, it's getting a whole fiesta. But I think Michigan should just give in. They finally have the coach that could get them back to that prominent stage because, after this upcoming season, it's like, it doesn't really matter about being in the top 4 anymore. What it matters about, as long as you're in the top 12, you got a chance. And It now brings me to my next question. The AP poll has come out with a way too early top 25. I always love how this happens. Just as the season ends, it's like, yeah, here's the way too early top 25. Wouldn't you know it, three Big Ten teams are in the top five in the way too early top 25. Um, I don't really want to do much speculating on that, but three of the Big Ten teams that are in the top five are Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State. Where do you see college football going at, and how many Big Ten and SEC teams, along with Pac-12 teams, do you see maybe actually being in the top 15? Because I do know Oregon's going to be a solid contender next year. And do you actually think that for maybe the last time that the traditional Pac-12 will be formed, that the Pac-12 actually might show that there's relevance there?
It's a possibility. Got some good USC, Utah, Oregon. Oregon State got better, and need a couple other schools to get better. But USC could be a contender. They just got to figure out their defensive situation. If they could figure out, if they had at least an average defense, they'd be right there in the thick of things with the rest of the teams. That Caleb Williams is amazing. And Oregon's right there, too. They've had a good season, so they should bounce back nicely. But it's way too early. Still got more recruiting to be done. See how some of these players going to develop. And yeah, I don't really look into those too early polls and stuff. It's just good way for people to get good reaction and good views on their articles. But I'm not really into the too early polls with the season still a long ways away.
Yeah, and it's like even you touched on, people got to understand, even like the 2023 recruiting class, it's still not in full lock yet because you still have players that, haven't signed that probably will sign in the traditional signing period. And, and this is another interesting question because I was doing this look at Penn State because I noticed that they got the same amount of early enrollees that they did last year around this time in this cycle too. And some people are kind of against it. They say, "Oh, finish out, your high school career, this, that, the other." But I guess a lot of people don't see the bigger picture with football. Is that it's sometimes beneficial for a recruit to enroll early if they can. Now, I know that there are certain, academic, strings that they have to, get in and get out because of academic requirements, and they got to make sure that their credits are up to date and this, that, the other to actually do that. But do you actually think that it is a positive, outlook for a recruit to enroll early, or do you think that they should just traditionally wait?
Uh, I guess it depends on the situation. I would probably like to enroll early so I already can, get a feel from the play. Try, I don't know how can, if you enroll, can you get the playbook right away before? But
Oh, you
you
can.
can
Yeah,
work,
you can.
get the playbook and already understand the offense. So when you come into the camp, you already can know the offense kind of. You already read through the offense and stuff like that. So I think that'd be beneficial there.
I would say I think it could be a benefit, but I also just think it's really up to the recruit. Do they want
But
to enroll early or do they not?
but then you enroll early and the coach leave or get fired and you like what did I enroll so early for? So yes,
Well, I think it's all also about being prudent. You got to
yeah,
understand. I think that in some ways, now allow me to say this. Just because a coach is signed long term doesn't necessarily
yeah.
mean that they're going to be there long term. But I think it's all about really questioning the stability of the program. Or is the coach actually going to be there for the long term? And how do you know? I know that sometimes administration doesn't really want to get into that, and I can understand that. But at the same time, I think to myself, that's something that a recruit should rightfully get to know because it's just like, okay, I'm committing to you because of your vision for this program, but it's just like if you're not going to be here, for the long term or whatever, or at least from the time that I plan on being here, you know, why should it happen? You know, I kind of take a look at, you know, how Penn State has been the past years, and not just trying to just deliberately pick or like look at Penn State, but I see how like it's worked with the not necessarily the wide receiving core, I guess you could say it, but more importantly the running back core. You know, for the first time in a long time, you know, Penn State has had a 1,000-yard freshman running back in Nick Singleton, and I think that that's huge in the development because you know it can go to show, you know, hey, you know, enrolling early it can have its benefits. You know, these guys, you can get the playbook early, you can really study all that stuff, you can, and I think where I guess it really benefits in the long run is you know, people, I guess, don't understand that whenever it comes to enrolling early, you know, it's not necessarily just looking at the playbook and studying that, but it's also about your at the most pivotal point in the development, which is the winter workouts. You know, spring ball happens down the line, but you're enrolling early. It's all about the winter workouts. It's all about, you know, getting your body and your mind mentally and physically prepared for what's going to happen in the fall, what's going to happen in the spring, because now, you know, because a lot of guys, you know, and this is something I caught on is, you know, a lot of coaches talk about the development, you know, and it's about, oh, you know, adding the weight or, you know, adding the frame. And, you know, a lot of people got to understand is that's where it happens in the winter workouts is that's where you get stronger. You know, that's where you find out, you know, the nutritional aspect. That's where you find all of that out. But how do you expect to find that out if, you know, no, I get it. You know, transferring from high school to college is a big, big, big gap because you're going from gradually learning the material in high school with 4 quarters and the whole 9 yards to, you know, a semester in college is 15 weeks. And, you know, you have to be able to grasp all that information and do this and do that. And it can be a drastic challenge. But, you know, with student athletes in particular, they know the challenge of balancing both of those aspects. So it's like they have the resources there to make sure that, you know, you don't fall behind, but it's up to you to like actually buy into all that and do this and do that. And I think that it could be a drastic major challenge, but I think it's something that could, you know, be beneficial. But it's up to, you know, I think it's up to both sides. You know, there's pros and cons of enrolling early, but I honestly think it should be up to the student athlete and if they believe that they can handle it and stuff, because sometimes it's just, hey, you know, we really see how great of a recruit you are, but we think it's crucial for you to get in here early when, you know, we've seen some recruits, especially me seeing some recruits at Penn State where they've enrolled early, but then it's like they've left the program because like they weren't so focused on like the actual development. It's like, oh, the college lifestyle, this, that, the other. And it's just like as a student athlete, you got to find that balance and that mix there. And I just think it just depends on the specific recruit and what they feel is beneficial. It's just enrolling early has its perks, but you know, in some ways, you know, maybe not enrolling early also doesn't have its perks because that's like the delay in the development. You know, I think with so far they have 22 signees and 11 of them have enrolled early. So that's like half the class right there. That is extremely beneficial though if you could get half the class to enroll early in a
Yeah.
lot of different aspects. I'm not sure if you heard the news about Georgia, but there's an unfortunate situation that actually did occur this morning with Georgia football. I do know that one of their players actually, 20-year-old from New Jersey, is unfortunately dead, I believe, along with one of their recruiting analysts too. There was a car crash that actually happened this morning around 2:45, and a player. I read about this, but it's all not sticking to my head. Oh, Devin Willock and a recruiting staffer died in a car crash, and then two other people were in the car, and they are critically injured. But that's unfortunate because you know Devin Willock, he was only 20, and you
Yeah.
know he was an offensive lineman, but like dude had a lot of upside and a lot of potential. But you know, my thoughts and prayers go out to the Georgia community because that's
Yeah, mine
sad.
too.
You know,
Yeah.
it's you know, it's sad for all parties involved. Just because 20, that's real young. I believe he was a freshman or a sophomore. He was one of the two. But it's just that's just a devastating story. And we can all confirm it because ESPN's the one that's reporting it as well. And Georgia, they released a statement in regards to it, acknowledging it. But you know, it's unfortunate, coming off of a national championship and then all of a sudden, not even a week later and you're no longer alive. It's just and everybody could say, well, car crashes happen all the time, but it's just like people don't understand the significance of this. It's just like, you just got done playing a national title game, and stuff like that. But even speaking about Georgia, this is actually a crazy stat that I just now realized. And I want your thoughts on this, LaMarr, because it's unfortunate that this happens. I mean, I really feel for his family. I feel for everybody involved because, the guy was a great player. And to do what Georgia has done, it's remarkable. Two back-to-back national championships, Kirby Smart building what he's building there. Everybody wants to talk about how Stetson Bennett is a two-time national champion, this, that, the other. But he won't be eligible for the College Football Hall of Fame because he's not an All-American. Your thoughts on this? Because I know a lot of people are saying, well, Stetson Bennett really isn't that good. He's only that good because of the players and the talent that surrounded him at Georgia. What are your thoughts? And do you think that you should have to be an All-American to enter the College Football Hall of Fame, or should it be about what you did on the field that resembles that?
I think it should be about what you could did on the field. If you're putting up numbers, though, you gotta put up the numbers. You got the numbers, Hall of Fame type numbers, and yeah, I mean, Stetson Bennett had 2 good years back to back titles. I think I would slide him in there about 50-50 on that. I mean, I'll be okay if you didn't okay, you don't. But tough to say. He started out kind of rocky, but the last 2 seasons, 29 touchdowns last year, 27 this year, and 7 this year and last year. Threw for 4,000 yards this year. I don't know. I'm gonna go legs towards no. Looking at his stats, I don't think he. Yeah, I'm almost leaning towards no. Passed for 2,000 yards last year. No,
We got a
top two,
little
top.
under a minute
Yeah,
50. I'd
yeah,
say no. I think that stats prove it, but like,
yeah,
okay, his story's remarkable, but you got to ask yourself, is it
yeah.
due to him being that good, or is it due to him actually having the talent around? Because you can tell if a quarterback's legit that good, or if
Mm,
it's like, yeah, the quarterback might not be that good, but you know, he's got talent around him, so that's what's making
yeah.
him good. Well, I know that we have less than a minute to go, so that's going to do it for this edition of the MLB Inside the Diamond podcast. For LaMarr Fields, I'm Tom Johnston. We'll see you guys on the next one.